Welcome to the Arithmetic Zone, and welcome back to our basic JavaScript series. Today we're going to go for iteration, which is essentially the repetition of code. So to start off, we're going to delete all this, and let's write the same console.log statement 3 times. So I'm going to copy and paste this. So I have 3 of these. I'm going to open up Git Bash to the same location as before. So cd and cd desktop, my arithmetic zone folder, and then the CS folder. And I'm going to run this file, and it prints out hello 3 times as expected. Now if I want to do it 10 times, I'd have to do 10 of these, and obviously it's going to work, but it's quite tedious having to write the same line of code each time. So how do we repeat our code? Well, we would use loops. One loop we're going to go over today is the while loop. So I'm going to comment all this out. So while loop, how you set it up, right? While, then parentheses, braces outside of it, then inside the parentheses is your condition. So a while loop is essentially an if loop. It's an if loop that just repeats. So we need to set up a condition here that tells this program that it should only run what's inside of the braces only 10 times. So what you'd have to do is set up a count variable. So let's say let count equals 0, and inside of here we're going to write count while count is not equal to 10. So now inside of here we're going to write console.log hello, and then we're also going to have to update that count variable each time in the loop. So count plus plus, so it'll increase by 1 each time. So let's see this in action. So node introduction.js, and let's count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It works. It printed out hello 10 times. How does this work? Well, using our count variable, the while condition checks if it's equal to if it's not equal to 10. It's not equal to 10, so it's true. 0 is not equal to 10. So it prints out hello. Now count is 1. Goes back to the condition and checks it again. 1 is not equal to 10. Prints out hello. Now count is 2. It's going to keep checking the condition. So it's going to become 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, 7, 8, 9. And then finally, once count is not equal to once count is 9 and this runs, it already runs 10 times, because remember, it starts from 0, so 0 to 9 is 10 values. So once count updates to 10, because 10 is equal to 10, it fails the condition and it stops running. So that's essentially how a while loop works. And obviously, you could choose to increment this variable by a certain amount. It doesn't have to be, by 1. You can do by 2's. Remember, you can't use plus plus for any number that's not 1. So if you want 2, you gotta write plus equals. So let's try it. See what happens if we increment it by 2. Well, now it only prints out 5 times. Why? Because it goes from 0. 0 is not equal to 10. Then 2. 2 is not equal to 10. Then 4 is not equal to 10. Then 6. Then 8. So it does from 0 to 8. The even numbers from 0 to 8 is 5 numbers, because once it's 10, it stops running. And I can even do 3, but I must warn you, something will happen if I try to do 3. And I want you to be ready if you test it. It's probably best if you don't test it, but it's going to keep running. It's going to keep running forever. How do you stop? Control-C. Press Control-C to get out. So what just happened? It printed out hello like 50 million times or something. Can't even go past it. So what we just encountered is an infinite loop. An infinite loop happens if the condition in a while loop never ever has a chance of failing. It's always true. And if a loop is always true, it's gonna run forever. But why is this an infinite loop? Why did it happen when I change count to 3? Well, count goes from 0 to 3, then to 6, then to 9, and 9 is not equal to 10, so it's going to increase by 3. 9 plus 3 is 12. 12 is not equal to 10. Notice how it completely skipped 10. It completely missed the signal to stop because it was never equal to 10. So it's just going to keep increasing. So 12 plus 3 is 15. 15 is not equal to 10. 18 is not equal to 10. It's going to go on forever. So that's why when you make a while loop, you should be using a less than sign, so that this better accounts for stopping these count variables. So now if I try to run it, it's going to only run 4 times because 0, 3, 6, and 9 are all less than 10. Now I'm going to set this back to plus. I'm also going to put this to 3. So just by looking at this, it's pretty easy to tell, this is only going to run 3 times. 0, we set it to 0, it's checking, it's only running if it's less than 3, and it increases by 1 each time. So, what if I do less than or equals? If I do that, then it's going to run 1 extra time. Why? Because it's going to run when it is equal to 3. So it's 0, 1, 2, and 3. Those are 4 numbers. So keep that in mind when putting less than or equals to in your conditions. Make sure you know what you're starting with and how many times you want it to run. Now, of course, you don't have to make it so that the count goes up. You can make it go down by minus. Of course, then you would want to flip the sign. And then also flip the numbers. Start from a higher number and end with a lower number. And this should function the exact same. But we gotta see if that's the case. It should print out 4 times. Yeah. Because we just flipped everything. But why would you want to do it like this? Well, keep in mind, we can still access the count variable inside of this. So we can put count and then comma string hello inside of console.log. And now I believe if we try to print this out, it'll print out what count is along with the hello. So if I put it back to when count was increasing and not decreasing, it should say the numbers are increasing from 0 to 3. There. So there's a lot of applications for this, but we're going to show those in another way to make these loops, and they're called for loops. So I'm going to comment this out. How do we start a for loop? For loops are a little more complicated, but are ultimately more simple. So write for, then again the parentheses, then again the braces, and inside here, instead of having a condition, we're going to have 3 things. We're going to have the initialization, which was this line. We're going to have the condition, which is this line. And we're going to have the increment, which is this line. So essentially, puts all 3 of those things in the parentheses, separated by semicolons. So we're going to say let I equals 0, semicolon I less than or equal to 3, semicolon I plus plus. And then we're going to write console.log I, comma, hello. And usually you would use I in a for loop. You can use anything in there, but that's the standard. And this is going to function the same as what we just made. See? And we did that all in 3 lines, while this one took 5 lines. And again, we did that by putting the initialization, the condition, and the increment all in 1 line. And of course, I can change this as I want, like that. I can even make this start at 1. Now, I believe this is only gonna run once because it starts at 1, then it changes to 3. 3 is not less than 3, but gotta check that out regardless. You should always test out your code, even if you're sure what's gonna happen. It only runs once, as I said. I can make it go backwards, but I think you guys understand the point. But now what I want to show are nested loops. So what's a nested loop? It's essentially a for loop inside of a for loop, or even a while loop in a for loop. When something is nested, it just means you have a structure inside of a structure. So inside of this for loop, I'm gonna make another for loop. But first, my, numbers here. I'm gonna make this 0. I'm gonna make this 10. I actually think this should be 1. This should be less than or equal to 10. Make this plus plus. And I'm gonna make another for loop here. Now you want to use a new count variable. So let j equal to 0, j less than or equal to 10, and j plus plus. Make sure, again, you're using semicolons, not commas. That's a common mistake. No pun intended. Now anyway, right here, let's print out both I and j. So what do you think is going to happen? This for loop is obviously going to run 10 times, but this for loop is inside, and it's also going to run it 10 times. So essentially, this for loop is going to run 100 times, and it's printing out I and j each time. Now, j is going to change for every time this is printed because this is in the inner loop, but I is not going to change until this is completely done, and then this loop changes the I. It's hard to explain, but if I show it to you in action, it'll make a lot more sense. Oh, I forgot to save. Always make sure to save. Alright, so printed out a lot. Thankfully, it wasn't an infinite loop though. But as you can see, oh, yeah, I should make this 1. Or better yet, I should make this 0 and that 0. But if you look at it, I think you get the idea. This is the left value is I, the right value is j. The j value changes from 0 to 10, then it goes back to 0, and then it goes up to 10 again, goes back to 0. The I value does not change until j makes its full way from 0 to 10. So what could an algorithm like this be possibly used for? Well, a clock. So let's say we want an hours and minutes clock. Well, the outer loop, what's outside and what's slowly changing would be hours. So we'd set that from 0 to 23, while the minutes should be from 0 to 59. The minutes should be the inner loop. And if I try to run this again, now it's going to print out all the hours and minutes of a day. It's going to start and it ends off at 11:59 p.m. like that, 24-hour format. If I try and make it here, yeah, it's going to start from 00 or 12 a.m. So you can see how just with a few lines of code, we can output so much text, so much information into our console just by using nested for loops. And you might be thinking, well, if for loops can do all of that, why would you ever want to use a while loop? Well, the thing with the for loop is, if you notice, for loops prioritize any incrementing conditionals, while a while loop, you can put any condition in a while loop. So you can put in, say, user input inside of a while loop, and that'd be much harder to implement in a for loop in which it's only really looking for a count variable. In a while loop, if you have user input, basically you can have the user tell the code when to stop looping. So that's why you need to really know what you want to make when choosing between a for loop and a while loop. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video. A little shorter than the other ones, but I think I made my point clear with basic for loops and while loops. See you guys later.